If you are sitting on wholesale deals that won't sell while everybody else seems to move their deals in days, this video is going to change that. I'm about to show you the 10 fastest, most reliable ways to find real buyers and move your deals before your contracts expire. These are the exact strategies I use to build a buyers list of 3,000 active investors and operate a 7-figure wholesaling business. By the end of this video, you have the step-by-step blueprint you can copy today to sell your deals faster and more consistently. Before we jump in, do me a quick favor, hit subscribe, drop a comment if you want more videos like this. Helps me know what to do next. All right, the first one is your comps are your buyers. This is a big one where essentially if someone bought a property very close to the one that you are selling, they're most likely going to want to buy yours. That's basically the concept. So essentially, how do you go about this? I'll have a different video on how to get comps. But assuming that you know how to get comps or comparisons or find similar properties to the one that you are selling, you want to actually target the buyer agents and listing agents or the buyers. So here's how to actually approach this. Pull comps for your subject property. And we'll actually use one as an example. Now use Zillow for comping just to keep it simple. And then you're going to identify similar sales, and then you skip trace the owners, and then reach out with your deal. So this is what this would actually look like. So I'm going to go to this property right now. This is just a property in Tampa, Florida. So say, for example, just for this video, I'm looking for a 2-bed, 1-bath, around 1,200 square feet, property built in 1960 in Tampa, Florida. That's kind of the idea. So when I'm looking, our property is actually on Idle Ave for the one that I'm using in this example. Two things I'm looking at. I'm trying to find properties that are in similar condition, and my property is a fixer-upper. So the concept would be, going back to this, is that the ones that need work, let's try to find the buyer's information, because if a buyer bought a property that needs work, like for example, like this one's boarded up, and our property needs work, they're most likely going to want to buy ours. So the idea would be, okay, here's the property, and let's find the buyer's agent. You could just scroll down, and you could see on Zillow, bought with Kenya, Octave. And all I would do is I just really copy this, throw it into Google, and then I could just find Kenya's or whoever the person's information is. So that's what you could do there. Next is ARV properties. So going back to this, ARV properties are fixed properties, and then you want the seller's information. So the goal is for, in this example, to find flippers. Let's find something here that's been fixed up. I think this one's been fixed up. And we're looking at this one. So, and you could look at in the property description as well. Move-in ready, awesome, all this stuff. So the listing agent. So the concept here and the logic is you would want to reach out to the listing agent because the listing agent is representing a flipper or fix and flipper that fixed up the property and is selling it. So this person's selling for the fix and flipper. So this person may want to buy ours to fix it up and sell it on the back end. So your comps are your buyers. Those are two ways to actually get the get information for and get essentially just buyers. So here is the listing. I would literally call Blake. That's what I would do. And then you could find more. So all your other comps, exact same concept. So that's what I would do on that front. And this one, I've sold so many deals just doing this because they're just like, and basically what you say is like, hey, I have 123 Main Street down the road. It's very similar to the one that you just purchased. Are you interested in this one? And most likely yes, or different verbiage when it comes to the listing agent. But I could put all this stuff in the description below of how to actually frame it to these buyer agents and listing agents. But the main idea is, hey, I have a property that you may be interested in. Would you like to check it out? That's basically the concept. So that's pulling your buyers. Your comps are your buyers. Massive one. You could sell probably like 60% of your deals just through this method. Next is cold call recent cash sales. So this is kind of similar to this, but you can use PropStream, batch leads. There's all these different platforms. It's whatever your preference is to get recent cash buyers or buyers, whatever the case is. And when it comes to skip tracing, there's a ton of different sources to go about that once you have some information. When it comes to listing or agents or realtors, their information is usually public, but when it comes to actually cash buyers or LLCs, there's different ways to skip trace that. So I'll put that link below on how to approach that because there's tons of different avenues or platforms that you could use there. So cold call recent cash sales, use PropStream. what we could do here is, let's say for this property, I just did this property for example, what you could do is you go to details in PropStream, and I did is I just clicked search this property, and it brings up the property itself. And then you're going to want to click details. So let's just go here, click details, and then you want to go comparables and nearby listings. And this actually gives you the comps. And obviously, when you're running comps, you want to take into account properties that are close to it, so distance, square footage, and how recently it was sold. So take all those things into account, the basic things when comping. But the ones that you are comping for, you actually could get the flippers information here. So you could say cash buyers for all the places, all the buyers in this area that are actually buying, and you can see. So we would want to stick with the asset class because this is a single family in this case, and you can actually click into that and reach out to that buyer. So let's just find comparables. Let's just find this property, for example. I'm going to go to details. So while that loads, essentially though, the idea was if this was, you can go property details and you could just scroll down and then you could see who purchased it. And then you can skip trace this information. And here we just grab that property. So what you can do here is, let's go to comparable in nearby listings. Actually, let's go to property details. At property details. Okay, then you can see the buyer name, and then you can actually just skip trace this person's and call them. If this was a property that would be like a flip, that's one way to go about it. So that is the concept when it comes to cash buyers. And what you could do is you can pull all the cash buyers. So that whole cash buyer list that it shows 150 cash buyers, you could export this, grab all these on PropStream. And there's a bunch of different softwares that do very similar thing, like PropWire. But you could copy this, throw it into a thing, and then you could just text them all, call them all, say, hey, are you interested in this property that I have down the road? And you could definitely sell it if you have a deal, or at least get feedback to figure out what price you need to be at. Next is Facebook groups. So this is cool. This is like a one way to proactively build a list before you even have a deal. But there's a few different strategies here. So one, the thing you're going to do is you're going to join local groups. So I'm going to do Tampa, Florida in this example. You're going to find real estate. You're basically going to say off market Tampa real estate, and then join that. And you could do the same thing, just change the city name, and you're going to join those groups. And one thing you could do is you can help other people by posting their deals, and then people would put their information like, hey, I'm interested. You could partner up with that person that you're helping to sell their deal, and then you could get buyers from there. But another way is this method. So actually, I'm just using the group that in Connecticut. So what you'll want to do is, and shout out to this other YouTuber that helped me on this. You say @gmail.com. So all I did was just say @gmail.com, and you can actually see all the people that are interested. So like cash buyer looking for off-market deals. Boom, boom, boom. Here's their email. So you basically just get a bunch of emails, and you could have like a VA essentially grab all of these this contact information for the criteria that these buyers are looking for, and then you could just reach out to them when you have a deal and just slowly organically build your list from there. So going back to this, @gmail.com is one way to do it. You could just say let's just see. I believe just doing is one way to approach it as well, or like @yahoo.com or something along those lines. That's just one way to get numbers or emails rather. So @Yahoo, and then you'd go to the details section. So here it is, 7 comments. You go here, and then you could see if they actually have information, the contact information. @gmail.com though is one of the best approaches that I've done, or I've found information. Okay, awesome. So next, that's Facebook groups. I've got like 1,000 buyers just from doing that. So highly recommend doing that, especially if you know you're going to stick into a certain market. It's one way to do it. And then call them, email them, and vet them. Next is trading buyers lists with other wholesalers. So this is one way to just get a massive list very quick. So say you already have a list, or you could add value to another wholesaler in some capacity. You can ask them like, hey, like, do you have a list of buyers that you can share with me? And that's one way to quickly get lists very fast. So you could DM 3 wholesalers, let them know, and be like, hey, yeah, and just see if they would be open to doing it. And if you have buyers yourself, that goes a long way. So just something to be aware of. That's one way to like just get a list very quickly. JVing with wholesalers who have big buyers lists. So yes, you are not going to get the whole piece of the pie if you JV with somebody, but this is one way that you can basically tap into their buyers list. So you bring a deal and they bring the buyer. Most likely the split is going to be 50-50 or whatever the case you guys land on. Depends on the value and how much you did on your end and how much they're doing on their end. But whatever buyer they end up bringing, that could be your buyer. You'll be involved on who that buyer was. So that's one way to approach it. New Western, there's all these other basically third parties that help with this. And so you could explore them as well. But one thing to know is, yes, you're not going to get everything, but it's better to get something rather than nothing. So this is just one way to approach it. Hard money lenders and title companies. So when you have a deal, they are in these essentially these vendors, they are incentivized for you to sell your deal. These two companies, they are working with buyers all day, every day, because that's the one side of that transaction. So what I would do is hard money lenders, I would just search on ChatGPT. I just did this before this. Top 10 money, for example, in Tampa, and boom, you can see these top 10 buyers here, which is really awesome. And then you can just literally ask it for the contact information. But I'd reach out and be like, hey, I have a deal in here, deal on 123 Main Street. Do you happen to have a buyer that would be interested in this? And all these lenders are working and providing funding for these buyers. So hard money lenders is definitely a way to approach it. And the exact same concept as title companies. Title companies are working with buyers, and they know the buyers and sellers that are doing a ton of business. So one, you should establish a title company in general for if you are going to stick in a local market to sell the deal once you do have a buyer. So why not just ask them to see if they have any buyers that they could share that they know are doing a lot of business in that area. And they're incentivized to give you that because it lets you sell the deal and then you'll do the deal with them. So very useful building connections with vendors. So identify, make contact, build relationships. Local REIAs and property auctions. So this is a awesome way to go about building your network and finding buyers. So local REIAs, I would just look in your state. Essentially, I'd say, for example, Florida REIA is Real Estate Association, Florida REIA, and they usually have like a Facebook group or something along those lines, but they have, this is based, and there's meetup.com, there's all these different ways to find it, but basically going to in-person events is a phenomenal way to find buyers because your value is, hey, I have a deal, or I'm looking to find off-market deals at a discount, and I'm looking to sell, and I'm looking for buyers. And there will be so many people that would want to jump on that list because they want to see what you have. So that would be the process there. And then also auctions. You could just go to auction in auction.com. There's so many, or you could just ChatGPT auction sites in your local area, or any AI, Gemini or whatever the case is. But the idea is you would go to auctions, the actual places, and this is one way to see the buyers who are there and see if, what they are interested in and get their criteria. And one thing to note is there's reverse wholesaling. This is assuming that you kind of have a deal, and this kind of melds where you could also be proactive and get buyers before you have a deal. But there's reverse wholesaling where you actually can meet these buyers, see exactly what they're looking for. Say, for example, they are looking for 1,000 square feet. This actually dives into the hedge funds, which is the next concept here. Hedge funds, they say, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath, between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet, built in 1980 or more, in this city, or whatever the city in this example, like Tampa, Florida. They give you the criteria, and then all you need to do on the acquisition side, or when you get the deal, is on the front end, just find those properties, and you already have a buyer lined up. So that's what hedge funds usually do. To find hedge funds, how do you go about it? I recommend LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn and search hedge funds in your area, and that's one way. And you could find people that work for hedge funds and then just connect with them on LinkedIn and reach out to them, and that's one way to and essentially you'd say, hey, I have off-market deals in this area, I'm looking to generate more, would you be open to me sending you deals to see if it's something you guys would be interested in? Hedge funds are a huge one. You could literally just have your main, you don't even need a buyer's list, you just have a hedge fund in your back pocket that would just buy everything that you have if you're just targeting what they like. So, and they pay more too. In 2021, they were going off. So that's something to be aware of. InvestorLift is another platform. This is paid. These are all a lot of free ways in the past, but InvestorLift and PropStream, those are two ones that are paid. InvestorLift, though, if you are doing like more than 5 deals a month, highly recommend it. Where it's just like the hub of all the buyers. You could easily text, email blast in there. So I recommend it. I'll put a link to that if you guys would be interested. But I highly recommend it as well if you guys are doing volume. So yeah, linked it with hedge funds, and if you're doing 5+ deals, InvestorLift. Okay, this is my bread and butter. So this, in order to do this though, it comes down to you have to lock it up on correctly, where essentially the steps would be research your state, and essentially what this is though is you are putting the property on the MLS. So this is the best exposure to get buyers because you're putting it on the biggest marketing platform in the world, essentially, to sell real estate. So if you could do this, amazing. If you can't, then the other methods are very helpful. But if you could do this, you know that, okay, I have blasted it out and showed as many people as possible because you put it on the MLS. One thing to note though is you want to make sure it's actually on the right MLS association. So whatever flat fee service you use, you want to make sure they put it on the right association. And how you double check that is essentially, let's go back to here. Essentially, right here, you want to make sure it says you are putting on the MLS association that your comps are in, or at least in the area for that property. So the concept is you pay a flat fee service, and it's either between $99 and $500, depending on how big the listing is, and they post the property on for you. And then all the interest that the buyers or that they get either gets forwarded to you, well, it essentially gets forwarded to you in some capacity depending on how the flat fee service works, and that enables you to talk to them. So you got inbound interest, you got a lot of inbound buyers coming in, and it's mainly going to be buyer agents, and you just go through the process of telling them, hey, I have a deal, and going through that. And we have scripts and all of that of how to actually approach that. But flat fees is huge. I'd say right now our current model, we're 90% just flat fee. So how to actually approach this though? Want to research your state to see if you can even do this in the first place, because there's a lot of things to be aware of depending on the state, because some states are cracking down of like, hey, you can't market a property if you don't actually own it. There's equitable interest. There's a lot of different laws, and so we have a GBT that you can ask in order to help see if your state is compliant and what you need to know when you do this. But if your state is, for example, Florida currently as of 2025 is state compliant, I would recommend doing this. And they're all compliant, just a matter of like how many steps you need to do in order to approach this. But some actually may not be. But I'm just sharing based off of my experience. I'm not an attorney on all this stuff. Essentially, though, you research a state. Say you do the research, you talk to an attorney, or you ChatGPT, do basically your due diligence. Looks like you're good to go. Okay, cool. So let's just say it's Florida. You get the property documentation signed in the first place. So the biggest thing is just setting expectations with the seller, the person that you're working with. The seller, you want to make sure that they know. You don't want to just list the property and then them find out. That's just the worst thing. So you need to set expectations with them on exactly what you're doing. And to do this, you usually get a purchase and sale on like you would normally do. You get an attorney in fact or a power of an attorney, and we have a whole deep dive on this, but you basically get the other documentation in order to actually list it. And best case to really save you is you get the purchase and sale, and then the seller actually signs the lister, the realtor docs, and then you just maybe get another agreement just to make sure you get your fee, but you get all the proper documentation signed, and then you send your information to the flat fee company, and then they list it, and then all the inbound buyers come in, and then or buyer agents are calling in, and then you negotiate with them and lock them in. And so usually to do this, a novation is involved, or and that's a whole different thing, but it's just another way essentially to accept a buyer when financing is involved. but you could also get a lot of cash buyers from this with buyer agents that have cash buyers, and then you could just do the regular assignment fee. So that is the flat fee listing process. And all these buyer agents that call in, I would make sure to keep a record of their contact information. So you have a running list of people that are interested in that type of deal. So say you get another deal that's very similar to the one that you just sold, and you had 10 buyers that called in the past, then you can now call those 10 buyers and be like, hey, I have another one that like the one that I have had previously. So just something to note. Okay, in a nutshell, these are 10 ways to find buyers. And essentially the biggest thing is this is how you get your deal in front of buyers, and maybe you don't sell it because you're too high in price, but at least you get feedback if you ask for it on what price you need to be at. And there's a lot of different methods on how much feedback you should get and all that stuff. I say at least, if no one's at your asking price, get at least 3 offers, or at least 3 people's feedback on it. And that just goes for anything, right? If you're going to get vendors, you want to get multiple quotes, same concept. But if it's rural, it could be a little bit less, in the sense that it's the middle of nowhere, there's not a lot of people interested. That's just something to note. But this is basically how to sell your deal quickly, and or just get feedback to figure out what price you need to be at. So pulling buyers straight from comps, Facebook groups, trading with wholesalers, local REIAs, just being in person, using InvestorLift, cold calling by just pulling through PropStream or just different platforms, trading buyers with other wholesalers, contacting investor-friendly realtors, and that's also taking into account hedge funds, title companies, and hard money lenders, and then the flat fee service. If you got any value out of this, please subscribe and drop a comment. This channel is where I show real estate operators how to scale businesses through systems, AI, and organization using wholesale real estate as the proving ground. Click all the links below for all the resources I have to offer. Thank you.